tons of competition, all ranging in that 440 region. And so having a clear favorite in this event is not what we have right now. So it's going to be very interesting as this mile run plays out.
You see Olivia Howell there, though, the sophomore from Illinois, first place in the Big Ten Hawkeye invite.
She won that race by over 2 seconds. She's run 4:40.85. That was from February 12th. Her previous PR is 4:44, so she's chopped off a fair amount of time in this last year.
And this is just a really deep field. So like you mentioned, 4:40, the top time coming in. But when you go top to bottom, everyone within about 7-8 seconds.
Take a look at the lane assignments for the mile for the women. Bailey Hertenstein, who finished second to Bethany Haas in the Big Ten Cross Country Championships. She's in lane 3.
Also alongside Bailey, we've got 2 stellar Minnesota Golden Gophers. Both Anastasia and Abby, they both ran legs of the women's distance medley that took home the Big Ten title on Thursday night. That was the first in program history for Minnesota, so expect them to show out in the women's mile.
You see Abby Kohut-Jackson, the senior from Minnesota. There's a senior from Michigan, Alice Hill, that you can keep an eye on, and also a junior from Michigan State, Katie Osika. As you see Alice Hill in lane 7.
Alice Hill has tons of experience. She's sort of the class of this field. She's run a personal best of 4:41 so far this season. And she is a DMR NCAA All-American with the Michigan Wolverines back from 2019.
And they are underway. The Big Ten Women's Indoor Track and Field Championships, the final day, where we'll hand out a ton of gold medals, and at the end of the day, a team title. As I mentioned earlier, Iowa won the men. Last year in the women, it was the Ohio State Buckeyes. Minnesota finished second. Is this the year of the Golden Gophers?
So far leading up to this point, they have definitely put a solid stamp on the first 2 days, and like I mentioned earlier, they're hoping to continue to keep racking up those points similar to the Iowa Hawkeye men as this day progresses. But our early leader is Bailey Hertenstein of Indiana. She's a junior. She won the Big Ten title at 3,000 meters last year. So she's dropping down in distance here this year running the mile.
And it's interesting, Declan, as you and I called the cross-country championships in Shelbyville, Indiana, Bailey Hertenstein was right there at the end, and just in the last 40 yards, just missed out to Bethany Haas.
Yeah, you know, she ran a really smooth, comfortable race, and right now I'm liking what I'm seeing from her. She's running comfortably within her wheelhouse, about 72, 73. She just looks really smooth. She's got a really nice, controlled stride, and she just seems to like being up front. At cross-country championships, she just wanted to be there the entire time, sitting in second and third. Right now, she wants to be in control. The best way for her to do that is be in the lead.
And Jenna Barker is up there at the front of the pack to try to help her. So there is some team strategy in the women's mile.
That's right. We've got a few athletes where we've got multiple performers from various schools. And so we do see those 2 Hoosiers up front, but Hertenstein still leading. Declan mentioned they went through the first quarter in around 72 seconds. That is fairly slow for a competitive women's mile, especially at this caliber here at the Big Ten Championships. And so that's why we see these runners so packed up.
Yeah, right now, Korzanowski just sitting right on the hip of Bailey Hertenstein.
Come on, Katie, come on, Amy.
Coming up on 800 meters, so we'll give you a split there. But Korzanowski seems to be the one in control of what everyone else is going to do. She's got a little bit of a block on the rest of the field. You see Ali Gauchenki of Ohio State, she's moved up. And here comes Abby Kohut-Jackson, who we talked about earlier as well.
Korzanowski, a redshirt junior from the state of Minnesota. Minnesota, when you think about, granted, there's only one big powerhouse Division I college in Minnesota, but they get all the best athletes for every sport, no different in track and field.
Yeah, and they're able to come out here and get 2 into a final and then work some of those team tactics. As we see Alice Hill kind of breaking up the Lady Gophers right there, but working some of those team tactics in a race like this, really important. Now we're seeing Katie Osika from Michigan State, fastest qualifier in the prelims, start to make her move. She's stalking Alice Hill.
I like where Katie Osika is at right now, hanging out just behind off the hip of Alice Hill. Now, keep in mind, they are running on the outside of lane 1, right where it kind of borders that inside of lane 2, so they are running a little bit of extra distance. Now, hopefully that doesn't come into play as we have about 500 meters left in this race. Fully expect for this to really get going here coming up.
3:40 at the 12:09, so still hasn't really ratcheted up. They're averaging 73 still.
If you remember too, Declan, I asked Sarah during the men's mile, does the race look similar where everybody was tight? And she said it does, and in fact, they are all pretty tight here at the Bell Lab.
Yeah, I think that's just a little bit of respect of what Hertenstein can do. If she's in control of this race, everybody knows how good of an athlete she is. They're going to wait to challenge her until late in the race.
And Declan, you mentioned earlier that Hertenstein likes to be in front, so she's out of traffic. That can be great. However, once people start to make a push on that outside hip, like we see Olivia Howell from Illinois doing right now, she's going to have to work her butt off to hold her off, and it appears as though down the stretch she's doing just that.
You called for Olivia Howell. Got to give Sarah Crow credit, but Hertenstein, let's see if she can hang on. She was so close to winning that cross-country championship. It's Howell down the stretch, and kind of a repeat. It'll be Howell knocking off Hertenstein, and Illinois wins the gold medal individually in the mile.
Huge fast finish from Olivia Howell. And you know what? She's a sophomore. She doesn't have a ton of experience in these championship-style races.